Okay. Don't worry. Hi, how are you? I always do that because I remember my childhood. Each time I'm on set, I try to be childlike, not childish. You know, just be yourself, have fun. But before I go ahead to say anything, I just have to do this. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good everything, wherever you are on the surface of the earth, listening and seeing me. Yes, this is the Word Cafe live show. That space where we come in to lean on one another's experience to forge a positive path. How are you? I don't ask that rhetorically now, but I ask that because I care, and because largely what we do here in the studio or in the Word Cafe space is because of you. Come in to encourage you. All right then. I'm fine. I'm doing well. I'm good. It's been an amazing season for me, and what I do and all of that. So what am I going to be doing today? So I want to share my processes or my process in writing. That's what I want to do today. You guys know I love words. Yes, I believe in the power of words. Why? Because it is the unit of creation. I trade in words to profit my world. You know that. So I want to share with you, a couple of people have asked me this question about my process and all of that. And I just said to myself, it would be better or wise for me to come into this space and do this with you. So before I go ahead, I'm holding my coffee. So the other day, a very good friend of mine and colleague, we were talking, and actually I love coffee. And somehow he zeroed into the conversation of you are a coffee addict and all of that. And I said, no, I am not a coffee addict. I'm a coffee enthusiast. I love coffee. What it does to me, beyond the stimulating aspect of coffee, it inspires me. Yeah, a cup of coffee. Because you can see the word cafe largely came from, coffee. A couple of people who know me very well when I was looking for a name for my show, and they were like, the word cafe. You love words, you love coffee, and somehow these two things have come to define your processes and all of that. So I went in. We had a good laugh, an argument, and he was like, you're a coffee addict. I said, no, I'm a coffee enthusiast, whatever, and all of that. Excuse me. So, excuse me. Where were we? Yes, my process in writing. First of all, I must admit, writing is beautiful. Writing is amazing. Writing is one of the best things God gave to man. Anytime I come across writers, this is where I see them. They define our reality. They can be so creative, the way they play with words. They actually give meaning to words. Writers. My first encounter with writing was during the COVID. Pre-COVID, I love words, talking, conversations. I love storytelling. I'm from a long line or lineage, if you want to call it, of storytellers. My granddad, my mom, my uncles. So that's my environment. I grew up in the midst of storytellers. how we play with words. You come to see the power of words even when it is exaggerated and all of that. So it's been me. I found myself in the midst of the process of talking and writing in schools, as university, in my campus fellowship, yes, 9th to be precise, Nigeria Fellowship of Evangelical Students. I handled the general secretary position in my time, and that was an amazing season in my life too, because somehow things changed within the fellowship. I was there till up to zonal level and national and all of that. They took me around the country, Nigeria to be precise. But this is it. I loved it because that's me. So 2020, or before 2020, something happened in my life, which brought about a lot of changes. And how can I express myself? How can I live? So my wife encouraged me to go write. Do something. Do something with yourself. You love writing, you love talking, why not put your thoughts down? Why not express yourself? So the question is, where do I start from? Where do I start from? By training, as in my first degree is in biochemistry. I'm a biochemist by training, so I understand process. Yep. When you look at chemical processes, chemical reaction, there's a process. A plus B equals to C and D. When you remove D, there is this shift in the reaction to bring about a balance, Le Chatterless principle, ancillary pathways. So I understand process very well. And the human existence, the way our metabolic system, the way we take in food, that's my training. But again, how do you begin a process? Where do you start from? That has always been a biting question on everybody. When we want to start something, we try to say, how do I start? But there's something I came to understand when I started writing. There are no ways set, as it were. This is how to start. Just start. Yes, honestly, just start. So where do I start from? My pain. How do I take my pain, that thing that is bothering me, and turn it around? So that was where I started from, my pain. Not being in denial, but accepted. Not necessarily accepting it, but recognizing that I am in pain. And this pain, I can use it to my advantage. So at that point, I started writing. I started putting pen on paper. I call it the ink from within. Yeah, the ink from within. There is this thing about how God made us. Remember, when He breathed into us, yes, I'm a Christian, and I'm a person of faith, not ashamed about it. Everything about me stems from my faith, my belief. So, that scripture in Genesis when He said, after creating man, He breathed into him. The actual rendition or the actual word there is man became a speaking spirit. Not just a being. No, he became a speaking spirit. So something was deposited into him and he had to respond. So I see it like liquid stored within, a container. This liquid is eternal, I beg your pardon, in nature. It moves. It tries to find a way out. So that's why we live from in, out, and not from out, in. If you understand what I mean by that. So that is it. I realized that, and I just sat down, that this ink needs to flow. This ink needs to flow. So what did I do? I just picked up my scrap notebook and I started writing. Sometimes I use my phone, because that period of my life I was always in motion, as in transit, my movement, moving from Abuja, somewhere in the country, blah, 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 work related. So I had this time. Sometimes I'm sleeping and there's a notebook by my side, because I just feel in my sleep thoughts could flow. So what do? I have to sit down or get myself up and put them. So now these thoughts come in fragments. I call it frame. Just like when you look at a movie or you look at a camera, they'll tell you this is 4K or this is, 750i or whatever. My understanding there is that these things are frames. So the speed with which they come, they form an image. So these thoughts come in fragments, in frames. So I just put them down. I begin to put them down. Now, when you look at a typical text material, you'd always see opening, middle, end. So some of us have this challenge. You want to write, the first thing that comes to your mind, what is going to be the opening? What is going to be the middle? What is going to be the end, as in the conclusion and all that? But I came to realize if you try to frame writing that way, you will never write. So let me give you an example from a movie. Yes, you know it already. I learned a lot from movies and I share a lot. When you watch Star Wars, George Lucas's Star Wars, do you know that he shot the movie backwards? He first of all brought the end. Yes, the first episode of Star Wars was the end of the story. He shot it backwards. Another person that did that again was Peter Jackson in Lord of the Rings. When you look at the trilogy. So the beginning of Lord of the Rings is the story of Frodo and Smeagol. But he shot that at the end. The end of the story was, so he shot it backwards. And somebody will say, why are you bringing that in your writing style? I call it reframing or reimaging. So when the thoughts come, I don't care in the order they come in, All I do is put it down. I put it down. And after putting it down, what do? When I'm sure that this is the end of the story, or this is part one, because there's no end to it. That's the truth, guys. There's no end to it. So that's why you have series or episodes or editions. So when it comes, I put it down. The next thing for me to do is to begin to frame it. Move it around. Move it around. Like, okay, how do I want this story to come? How do I want it to appear? What's going to be the beginning? What's going to be the end? What's going to be the middle? So I decide all that after the words have come, and I put it down. And there's something I call making the fall part of the dance. There's no mistake in my thinking when it comes to writing. Yes, no mistake. When you look at a dancer, a ballet dancer, and you're dancing and you fall, and people say, oh, he or she just fell. Actually, no. That's a style. So you make the fall part of the dance. So when I'm writing, what we perceive as mistake, I don't see it that way. I see it as part of the dance, as part of the writing process. It fits in somewhere. Like somebody will say, oh, you spelt it wrongly. No. English, yes. has put words in certain semantics or syntax and all of that. By the way, writing is not English. Hope you know that. Like in our native dialect. Imagine you writing in your native dialect. It's not English. There is a sequence. But you try to capture the essence of your message in an understandable word. Let me give an example of what I mean. So when you look at the word maverick stands for somebody who is unorthodox in his or her approach in doing things. But do you know the story behind the word maverick? Maverick was actually somebody's name in the United States of America in then the Wild Wild West. Maverick had his head of cows or whatever they call it, horses and all that. So then there's this agreement within them on how to do things. But Maverick would always do something differently. He branded his animals and all of that. They're like, why are you a maverick? As in, you don't follow. So it was coined into English. So now when you begin to express yourself, they say that guy is a maverick. So you see, that is it. You make the fall part of the dance. So you pick this and you begin to, that's how I do it. I mean, I go about it, I structure it. And again, my hearing, I don't play with my hearing, my sense of hearing. In conversations, I listen keenly. Why? Because I learned something from Shakespeare, one of the greatest writers of all time. In my opinion, Shakespeare is not a person. That's my opinion. I stand to be. It's a group of people. That's a story for another day. So what Shakespeare did, if you look at it, then most of his works were adapted into plays. You know, he's seen as a playwright. So he goes on the street. He listens to how the street conversations, because now, you know, then at the upper court, they had this, what do they call it? The way they speak. There's a word they call it in English, you know, like a class of speaking. The commoners didn't speak that way. But the commoners had a way of exchange, how they spoke, how they, you know, did their businesses and all of that. So he goes on the street, he listens to the way they speak. A good example is, you know, that's good night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. Do you know where it came from? Okay. Good night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. So then they used to sleep in bags. They put themselves in bags. They, you know, zip the bag or tighten the bags to cover their legs, protecting them from bed bugs. So you see, he picked it. Or you hear things like as dead as the doornail. These are street slangs. He will pick it. Then infuse the element of creativity into it, then present it at the upper court in plays. You see them laugh. Oh yes, Shakespeare just said this. You see now? So he created a universe for himself and all of that. Another person that I read and follow keenly in creating is Mark Twain. Shakespeare is from England. Mark Twain, American. Americans are very expressive. They are not conservative in expressing themselves. And they have a way of playing with their environment. The Mississippi, the roads. So if you listen to Mark Twain, you see the way he expresses himself. Brief but deep. So to say, brief but deep. Then the poetic. Man by nature is poetic. Yes, it's poetic. How did I know that? When Adam saw Eve, he became a poet almost. He said, this is the bone of my bone, the flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman. So by nature, we're poetic. So these elements come to form what I do, what I write. Like again, take for example, I'm a Nigerian. I'm from Rivers State. Yes, Niger Delta. We're very expressive. So when I'm writing, let me give an example of street slangs from Niger Delta. Now, if I hear somebody in any neighborhood say things like "sae," most likely that's "sa." A, most likely he's from Rivers State or he's from the Niger Delta. Or I hear things like "my man chi," "abobe." Very likely they are from the Niger Delta, Rivers State. So we're very expressive when it comes to that. So I pick this element. Or you go to Lagos. You go to Lagos when you hear things like agbero, words like that. Those are Yoruba slangs for street boy or area boy. You get? So I pick these elements when I'm expressing myself in my writing. In my writing, it reveals where I'm coming from. Okay. Then again, I come to see that when expressing yourself, anybody, as long as you're born of a woman on this earth, we all express ourselves according to a color pattern, a color code. I see it from the covenant. Yes, you remember when God destroyed the earth, Noah's flood. What was a sign God brought to show that I won't do this again, but I will build with you? The rainbow. Yes, the rainbow. Go read it. Now, when you look at the rainbow from physics, they'll tell you Roy Beeve as the 7 or 8 colors now. This is how I see it, guys. The rainbow is a covenant. It flows from divinity. So everybody who is under the sun expresses a color code. It matches your attitude. It matches your emotional intelligence. Now let me point something out to you. If I put colors, let's say some bowls with pebbles, colored pebbles, and I tell a group of people to go ahead, just pick go ahead and pick a pebble. The likelihood for you to pick a color that speaks to you every day is 99.99%. And if I ask you, why did you pick that color? Or why did you pick that particular pebble? It spoke to me. And if I go into your closet to search, the likelihood for me to see things in that shade, maybe red, green, blue. So I see it when I'm writing the color codes. Like if I want to express passion, we always look at passion from the window of red. So any shade of red can express passion. Or I want to express longevity, growth. What color comes to mind? Green. Yes, green comes to mind. Or if I want to express sadness, what comes to mind? Gray. If you want to express a dark theme, as we call it, what comes to mind? Black. So these are elements in my writing process. So I take my time and I look at it. And I look at it again. And I look at it again. So you see, writing is so beautiful. Then the creative juice in writing. I see every form of art begins from one point: writing. Yes, you need to write it down. if you want to create anything, it starts from where? Writing it down. So that is the creativity. You write it down. You just have to write it down. So that's where it starts from. You don't run away from it. There is no right or wrong. There's only what? Acceptability. Yes. It's just like you go to Europe, the Scandinavian nations, or yes, Europe, the West. You hear classical music. Like my son will call it that. It has an elevator music, you know. But when you come to Africa, you hear the Afrobeat. So who told you that classical music is better than Afrobeat? Or you go to the Caribbeans, or you hear the Latinos as they play their sound. So it's about expression. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's just acceptability. And sometimes you look at that and you ask yourself, who gave you the authority, or who gave you the order to do what you're doing? Like I always tell myself, I have breath in me. Divinity gave me breath. That is the authority I have to do anything. As long as there's breath in me. That is it. So the validation I need is not west or east. It's just the breath in me. Yes. So you need to embrace that in writing. Your creativity. How does it come to you? How do you breathe? Yes. Your breathing has a lot. Your breath, has a lot to do with your creativity. Somebody, what do you mean by that? There's a spirit in man and the breath of the Almighty. You see it? So I embrace that and I put it into my writing process. So now, somebody may now ask, okay, I want to write. I help people to write. I've done almost like 10 or more works, people's works, help them to write. So you want to understand, how do I write? We always start with this process of, okay, I need to, the cover, the title, ISBN number, what again, the laying out, those are not the main things. But I just laid it out to you. Acceptability, ISBN number. Okay, you need to get ISBN number. The International Standard Book numbering or whatever, that's ISBN. Then your cover. What else? You're laying out. Those are the last elements of writing. Like one of the books I did, I helped someone to. It's called The Beautiful Broken Me. I did that. Bev Chehonyo, The Beautifully Broken Me. So when she came for us to do the work, I looked at it. I said, okay, beautiful broken me. What came to my mind was the kintsugi art, the Japanese kintsugi. Now, the Japanese, there's a tradition in Japan. They call it the art of repair, kintsugi. So when you have your pottery or plate broken, you don't want to throw it away. You need to fix it. You take it to those kintsugi specialists. When they use certain lacquer, it could be gold lacquer and all that, and they pour it and they bring your broken work back to you, beautifully done. So now let us look at the moral in that story. We are all broken in one way or the other, but there's a fixing. So what we came about was when I presented the book cover to her and explained why I think we should go about it that way. She was blown away. The beautifully broken me, looking at it from the kintsugi art. So That's how I start my process. Now, I've written 4 books so far. And somebody said, why have you stopped writing? Not really. I've not had the release within me. I have so many works in there, but it's like the time is not right. That's another thing about writing. The timing is not right. The timing is not right. When the timing, somebody said, how do you know when the timing is right? There's a breath in man. There's a spirit in man. The spirit of the Almighty giveth him inspiration. So we get inspired and we write. So I've written 4 books. A Cocktail of Words. Color of Words. My HRO notebook. And Hocus Focus on God. I have them here with me. Just a minute, and I'm going to show them to you. They're all there. They're all available at on Amazon. You can go pick them up. A Cocktail of Words, The Color of Words, and I'm going to tell you the stories behind all of this. My HRO notebook and Focus on God. Now, this is my first work. I call it my baby. I love this work. I'm going to read one from I'm just going to read. The foreword was done by D.K. Chukwumerije, my very good friend. Okay, just give me a minute. I want to read something. These are poems, thought-provoking, a blend of gentle, provoking thoughts. Power is a beast. Power is a beast that can never be tamed completely. When you think you have her to do your business, be careful how you wield her, because she is never for you or against you. But her outcome in your hands will definitely define you in this life and in the hereafter. Cocktail of Words. This book always reminds me of the power of words. You accepting, because I wrote it when I was really in pain. That's it. I love that work. Then there's a sequel, more or less, like The Color of Words. You see it? Now, there's something about this book. The cover, if you look at the cover, okay, I didn't tell you about the cover. Look at this. Oh, excuse me. The cover here is, you can see it, a cocktail. A concoction, if I want to use that word, a cocktail. Those of us who drink, you know what a cocktail is, a mixture. You create, new blends of maybe drinks or taste. That's how I work. Then for this, A Color of Words. You notice something with the cover. It looks like the DNA structure, the helix structure. Yes. I didn't even realize it until we finished the work. And that's when I now saw it. I was like, my, oh my. This is a DNA structure. So if you look at the DNA structure, like I told you, my training as a biochemist, that's the unit of life. The DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. I call it the God particle within us. So words are like that. You have the purine and pyrimidine bases, the combinations that come to, sorry, I'm boring you with all of that, but that's my training. So I bring it into my work. The combination of this, it brings about the total human structure. That's the power of words. That's the power of words. And I love this work. I love it. If you've not gotten my book, go get my book. It will inspire you. I assure you, it will inspire you. Now, I'm going to read something here. The butterflies with wings. Now, all my works, if not almost all, they are true stories. things that happened to me as a person. It was fascinating. It was a fascinating sight for us at that age, when gaming was all about playing catch, chasing after the sun, and gathering of stuffs in the wild. In the dry season, Harmattan as we call it, yes, in Nigeria, of that year, we encountered a sight, one I considered phenomenal, and as a child left us speechless and wanting for explanation. Yes, they were butterflies, not just winged creatures fluttering around and creating a sight and sound to behold and be entertained by. They had numbers on them, a numbering sequence that formed the pattern as if someone ordered it. We gathered them with pleasure and kept them in glass jars, like showing them off like trophies and comparing notes with one another. Look, I got number 10 and 11 is with you. And on it went. After that season, they disappeared like they were gone with the wind. Our curiosity and tenor were all alert the next dry season looking for them, but the wind took them far, far away. Hence, all we had were memories of them. When we inquired from the adults around us to get an explanation to what we had experienced, their response further confused us. Their submission was that those butterflies represented dead soldiers of war with their numbers, which was the indication of their ranks. Who are we to argue with the adults? As a teenager, I came upon the magazine with a portion dedicated to pictures of butterflies, displaying beautiful colors and patterns. Suddenly, I realized that they were my butterflies with the numbers, bringing this uniqueness to all the patterns outlined. We were not alone after all. I laughed out loud to myself. So, what were they really? A natural phenomenon? A superstitious appearance? One thing I got from that experience was that thoughts cannot be caged like the butterflies with numbers. They bear words, seeking those that will catch them to display their beauty. Words have wings, their numbers are limitless, and their effect knows no boundaries. The color of words. So you see, I play with words. This happened years ago. Yes, true story. Years ago. I think I was 3 or 4 years old. Don't ask me how I remember these things. That's how it works with me. Yeah, pretty young. Then my HRO notebook. As part of my training, I'm a HRO professional. I love HR. One of these days, I'm going to dedicate a session and talk about HR from my lens. I'm entitled to it. I have breath in me. I'm not going to follow it from the textbook now. So this was a true story, my experience, entry-level HRO and all of that. How I survived, how I came through. This is more of prose, as in, I love this work. I do. It speaks to my very person in HR. Go get the book. All right? Go get the book. Then these one, hocus focus on God. It sounds like a magical word. Hocus focus on God. So let me tell you something about this book, this work. Personally, I love words, and I love to know where they come from or where they came from, as the case may be. Now, when I was doing this work, I tried to understand, what do I call it? It's a pretty small book, but it talks about my conviction as a Christian who I am here. So, what do I call the book? What do I call the book? What came to my mind was hocus pocus. You know that magical word? So I went out to look at the etymology of the word. Do you know that hocus pocus was stolen from the Christian faith? A particular magician, I think his name was Procrus, in order to make his work appealing, he went to church or the church during the sacrament, when they're given communion, the words, hoc et dem. So his name is Procrus. He picked it. Hocus, hoc et dem. Hocus, hocus. The more you look, the less you see. Or the less you see, the more you want to look. So he used that for his magical art and all of that. So the right word is focus. Focus on God. There's a hook. When you focus on God, he hooks you on and he drags you. That's this work. So that's what I came to do, like I said, to share with you my writing process, how I see writing. There's no clear, there is don't get me wrong, there's no definitive, like this is how it must be done. No. For me, definition is limitation. The minute you define a thing, you create a limit. You have created a limit, you box us in. So that's my writing process. I enjoy it. I live in it. And let me tell you, this is not just to make you feel good. I can help you create any material. Yes, I said any. Some of the works I've done with people, they want to write a book, they want to put it out there, they don't know. I just record your thoughts and send to me. Yes. Just record your thoughts and send to me. So let me read out something to you let me tell you something. My wife is a chef. So one day I was just playing with certain thoughts and I was trying to psych her to say, what do you think? What do you think? The art of food modeling. I was trying to share a thought with her and all of that. So let me read out what I wrote. When I hear you are what you eat, I can't help but take it a step further. Your appearance, your vitality, these have roots in your nutrition. It's not just about culinary choices. It's a form of artistry, a delicate balance where food shapes the essence of who you are. For me, it's not simply cooking. It's modeling, where nature's finest offerings are blended in perfect harmony. Each ingredient finds its place, its purpose, and I breathe life into the process, infusing it with my own soul. The result? An irresistible fragrance that defines not just your meal, but your very presence. Food modeling isn't just what I do, it's who I am. Come, let me guide you on this journey. I promise the experience will be nothing short of unforgettable. So, this is what I also do. I captured it, and when I sent it to her, she just looked at me and was like, I don't know what to do with you. I said, whatever, go ahead, do with me as you please. So that's my writing process. I capture essence. Just speak to me. Just record your voice. I know what to do with it. So let me end with this. This is how I see myself. And the day I got this, I told myself I will embrace it forever. I will not let go. I have the tongue of the learned. The Lord has given me the tongue of the learned, that I should know how to speak a word in season to him that is weary. He wakes me morning by morning. He wakes my ear as the learned. The sovereign Lord has opened my ears. I have not been rebellious. I have not turned away. I'm going to stop there, but this is where I'm going with this. I don't just write. I'm inspired to write. I'll leave you with this thought. When it comes to writing, I hear people sometimes, some writers tell you they have writer's block, like they don't know what to write. I don't believe in that. No, I don't. Like I said, you make the fall part of the dance. So the minute you realize who you are, your source, your connectivity, there is an endless flow. Endless. So writing is a beautiful thing. And in this age, we now have certain aids to guide us, in doing the writing and all of that. Like you have now AI. I don't so much depend on AI. I see AI as an assistant. I create my thoughts. Yep, I create it, and sometimes I said, okay, fine, let me see how I can infuse an AI aspect to it, like to bring in certain elements to it. If you follow me on social media, you will see my thoughts. You read them. Sometimes my thoughts they take you on a journey, like a rabbit hole. And it's like, where is he going? Where is he going? Where is he going? I hope this helps. I just said I should come in to do this. I hope it helps. But I'm available. You want to write? You want to create? You want to put out that thought there? You want to work on your brand? I'm a phone call away. I can help you. Yep. Bring to life your thoughts, and they take flesh, because that is the essence of writing. The word ultimately becoming tangible. You know how we say it on the show. My name is Amachree Isoboye. Till I come your way again. Bye for now.